Hey, welcome back to another Epidose of these crazy guys that just eat meat and can't stop talking about it. Today we're doing another short ribs, and today's topic is what, Justin?
What is sugar? Are carbohydrate sugar?
So what do you think, Justin? Are they?
Of course not. That's crazy. No. Um, Unfortunately, the truth is carbohydrates are sugar. It all gets pumped and turned into glucose in the body. And glucose is toxic to the body, especially in large amounts. And so, which is why the diabetes advice that's been coming down the pipe for many years has been very confusing. You can eat whole bread and a little bit of fruit, just avoid Cokes and soda, basically, right, Tom?
Yeah. Yeah. So, I think it's good to remind people that number one, we basically get all our calories from three substances: carbohydrates, which are all sugars, and then fat and protein. And so, what Justin and I have been espousing is that a diet based on meat, which is protein and fat from animals, uh, is a healthier choice for most people. And you don't need the carbohydrates or the sugars. And I like to say that everybody can tolerate a certain amount of that. But I think I like to just go back to the fact that most people get cavities in their life. They have dental problems, and that's directly attributable to carbohydrates, right? So that's just kind of the starting point. But things like type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, kidney disease, brain fog, uh, even Alzheimer's. A lot of researchers are describing Alzheimer's as type 3 diabetes. Also seems to be caused by carbohydrates because we eat sugars or carbohydrates to raise our blood sugar. Then the body has to deal with the excess sugar, and it also releases triggers release of more insulin. So our insulin levels are too high. Cells in the body become uh, insulin resistant, and they also become saturated with sugar. And that's why people with type 2 diabetes get these diabetic ulcers, usually on the lower extremities, like the legs. They get these sores that don't want to heal. And these are sores that only form on people that have high blood sugar. So at the end of the day, yeah, what Justin said is correct. The only small caveat is the fiber. It's usually in the form of cellulose that we don't actually digest that. It just passes through us. But when it passes through us, it takes nutrients with it. So when you think you're getting all this iron from spinach or something, you're not actually absorbing a lot of that because it's trapped in the fiber and it's going right out the other end. So that's why we think eating plants, at least in volume, is tends to be a losing proposition, and it tends to be counter to human health because we evolved to eat meat, which is clear in the archaeological, anthropological, biological, even in the realm of physics. It's clear that we were eating meat for thousands of years, and pre-humans were eating lived on a diet of meat as well. So there just wasn't plants to plants around for us that were safe to consume because almost all plants, natural plants, are toxic to human beings. So yeah, sugar is a substance that we can use as a fuel, and there are cells that require sugar, but our body makes that sugar. Our body makes that glucose, and then it can tightly control the amount that's in our body so that it doesn't have these toxic effects. I mean, just look at A1C scores. You see TV commercials all the time for these drugs to help people lower their A1C scores. The A1C is a measure of how much damage has been done to the red blood cells by the elevated blood sugar. That ought to give you some idea, of why eating sugar or carbohydrates can be a detrimental thing to people's health.
Yeah, exactly. And they've tried to fool people with saying that the body processes the honey sugar or milk sugar or carbohydrate sugar or fruit sugar differently. But like Tom said, there's only three substances our body does decent with, and two that it does amazing with. And again, carbohydrates, fat, and protein. So if it's not a fat, it's not a protein, it's a carbohydrate. Or it's completely synthetic. And I'm not sure if you want something completely synthetic in your body as well.
Right. Well, and you can get calories from alcohol, which is none of the above. But if you're trying to take care of your health, you're not getting the bulk of your calories from alcohol, hopefully. So, you know, I mean, people like to enjoy a drink here and there, and I understand that. But I think as much as things are enjoyable, I don't think alcohol is actually good for us. So it's just one of those things. Again, people can tolerate a certain amount of it, and that is what it is. But it's not necessarily good for you. So it's not a good place to get your calories, anyways. So. But yeah, I think we were oversold this whole idea of eating, bread and cereal and all that's good for us. I don't think it is good for us. We can tolerate a certain amount, but at the end of the day, I think it's detrimental to most people's health. And I know, like when I was a kid, it was like, oh yeah, have some cereal, and it's made out of grain. It's got some sugar added to it on top of that, and then you pour skim milk on top of that, which is when you take the fat out of milk, you're just concentrating the sugar, and then you maybe have some toast with that, and you might put some jelly and peanut butter on that. It's all more sugar on top of more sugar. Then you have a glass of orange juice. Again, more sugar, and so you have elevate. You start your day with elevated blood sugar, and your body's going to do whatever it can to get that glucose or blood sugar level down. That's why you feel tired later. So yeah, I think the evidence is clear. All that stuff, grain, wheat, corn, oats, barley, rye, all that stuff, not good for us. A little bit of fruit, particularly seasonal. Okay, you could make an argument for that, but we don't need it. There is no need for a human being to consume carbohydrates in general. Human beings have lived without carbohydrates just fine. Now you might have some special disorder, disease, or requirement, or damaged metabolism, or something like that, or whatever. And I know there's a lot of people out there, even carnivores, like adding in carbohydrates again. But in general, the science tells us that it's completely unnecessary, and it's probably going to be detrimental to your health, especially if it's not in small doses.
I agree. And
What's that?
although we can't guarantee how long a person will live, it's about quality of life. And it seems to be, in the long run, your best bet is to stick to the protein and the fat.
Yep, you fuel yourself with fat and you rebuild your body with the protein. So all your muscles, bones, organs, and all that, they're all based on protein. So, and then we need fat for fuel. Our brain requires a certain amount of fat. Our brains are about 60% fat. So, and that's why the human body really was based on fat and protein. We really don't have the ability to store all but a very small amount of sugar, but we can store an enormous amount of fat. We could store enough fat to live a year if we needed to, as proven by the experiment of the great Angus Barber. He was just tired of being fat and decided to fast for over a year under doctor's supervision, probably against the doctor's advice, but he did fine. So, that's the thing. The human beings were designed to burn fat, and that's why essentially saturated or animal fat is bad for us, because there's very little difference between human fat and cow fat. So, most of those tasty ruminants store their energy in the same form as we do. And as we evolved as human beings, we cut to the chase. Instead of eating a bunch of grass or whatever like they do, we just ate them. And that's how we evolved. So, well, I want to thank everybody for watching. We hope this was useful to people out there. We always try to be entertaining if we can. So, enjoyed these short ribs videos. We just try to answer questions succinctly. Keep an eye out for them. We're trying to make lots of them to answer people's questions quickly. And then we also have long format discussions, which are usually like an hour, where we really get into details, get various opinions, and so on and so forth. But until next time, eat some meat, feel better, and whatever you do,
Don't fall down the carb hole.